welcome everyone to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. My name is Collin and I am your host. Today's episode is with Bailee Huether. Bailee, thank you for stepping in last minute. I was scrambling and
he's like, here's my last option.
This is it. This is my last option. No, I always thought you'd be a good fit for the podcast. The thing is, I need to start making a list because I have so many people that I know I want to talk to and have on here, but my brain gets scrambled, and we'll talk about brain scrambling for a little while. So where do we want to start? So we met it because we're both in recovery, and we go to meetings. We can't say where. But how long have you been you grew up going to meetings, correct?
Yeah.
So you kind of knew where to go when you were at a breaking point?
Yeah, so I did not think I had a problem at all. And I went somewhere farther away for a work trip for training, and that was the first time I'd ever been away from family and friends and people like I knew. And I had my little rolling pharmacy going. And my dad calls me, and I'm talking. He's like, "You're on something. I don't understand a word you're saying." I'm like, "I'm not on anything."
Yeah.
He's like, "Listen, it takes one to know one."
Yeah.
And you're lying. And so he had looked up my hotel, and he found a meeting 5 minutes away. And I went. It was interesting.
Where were you?
Cedar Rapids.
Okay, so not far.
Yeah. But for me, it was far because, I hate driving, first of all. So, yeah, that was far enough.
Mm-hmm.
Where, my dad couldn't come to rescue me or where I could
easily.
tell on myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So you started going, that was your first meeting. So was there a gap before the second one?
Yeah, there was a small gap because I was like, well, abstinence is the same as, being clean.
We call that white knuckling in the game and the recovery world.
Well, my dad says, there's a difference between abstinence and recovery. Oh, yeah. And so, when I told him how long I had been clean for, he's like, that's great, but you're not in recovery. And it really upset me, by a lot. It really upset me.
Yeah.
And he's like, you got to start making it to meetings and work on bettering yourself because it's not the drugs or whatever. That's not your problem. You're the problem. So you're saying I'm a problem?
Yeah, you didn't like hearing that.
No. But then I started attending meetings regularly. But before all of that, it was a 7-8 year battle. And I kept thinking, I can do this on my own, and it just never panned out that way. So yeah, being actually on my own was the wake-up call, because I'm like, oh, there's no one here to stop me. Yeah.
So when did you finally go to your first meeting in the Quad Cities?
I think March of 23.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a month afterwards. And for the most part, the reason I realized, okay, now is the time to get my shit together is because I do a job where you can't have epilepsy to, do your job. And so you go to your neurologist and they do an EEG, so, checking out what's going on in your brain to see if there's seizure activity. And my job at the time wanted proof saying, you're clear, we can have you work without worrying.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to my neurologist and he's like, well, I can get that done for you in 6 months from now. I'm like solid out of work for 6 months.
Yeah, I can't really do that.
No, not feasibly, unless I want to live with my folks, which I don't.
Yeah.
Not that they're not great people, but it's not for me.
Yeah, I get it. I understand where you're coming from, because, yeah, me, like, living with my parents again is, like, the worst nightmare ever, and I love my parents, but, yeah.
No, it's like sticking two of the same guy in the same house. Like, my dad and I are very similar. So it's like we're just bumping heads constantly.
Yeah.
And we'll have conversations, and he's like, no, this is what I'm saying. I'm like, I just said the exact same thing. I just said the exact same thing with like different words.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, sorry, we were on the wrong page. I'm like, you just started yelling at me because you thought I was wrong.
Yeah. So, yeah, living with the parents. And how long have you had your own place?
I've lived by myself off and on since like the beginning of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So 2020-ish was when I started like living by myself. There was like living with a partner in between for a little bit, like a year or two. I don't know. But don't move in with somebody before you've been with them for like at least a year and a half.
How long were you together?
3 years.
But how long until you moved in together?
Well, it was a year for my first lease by myself, so probably a year and 2 months.
It's not
But
bad.
right, but like it worked out very poorly, and I think COVID contributed to that by a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think that made a lot of people stay together for longer. It's like,
Because you're stuck.
yeah,
Yeah.
like where else am I gonna go?
Yeah. Where else? Yeah, that's probably very relatable to a lot of people. Yeah. I got out of my relationship, like, COVID was still kind of going on. But
I think
we didn't live together, so.
I think it did like opposite ends of the spectrum. Like either everyone was breaking up or everyone was like, I guess I have to stay with this person. This is what I have to do. Where else am I going? Or in other people's circumstances, like, I don't think I can live like this. I don't think I could live like this with you.
Yeah.
Period.
There was like a light bulb, like a big shift, like in change in perspective for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't COVID for me with that situation. It just happened to me during that time. So we wrote a few things on the board here because I'm scatterbrained ADD. I wanted to talk a little bit about, we can start with, we talked about recovery. So how is recovery, well, we'll still talk about recovery for a little bit. How has recovery been going for you? You just surpassed a year, correct?
Yeah.
I already knew that. I don't know why I said correct. But
you were literally there. I bugged you for like
I was there.
a month in advance. I'm like, you gotta be there, and you're like, no fronts.
Yeah, I love messing with people when they're like, yeah, I'm gonna get a year in a month. I'm like, are ya? You don't know.
I believe in you,
I
but
love-
also
I love because the old cliche, just for a day, that's really all you got. There's a lot of cliches that I used to hate. Now I'm like, okay, I get it. But I still don't like hearing them all the time, you know?
no, it sounds cheesy, and you're like,
But it's true.
Yeah.
So you just passed a year. What would you say to someone who was like, a year, I don't think I could make it, a week without getting too descriptive on, this specific program that we're in, but
having a pretty good support system. Like, I know that I could call you any time of day. If it's like 2-3 a.m., I think you would be kind of pissed. But
I wouldn't answer because my phone goes to do not disturb, and I can't. I would just.
Well, now I know.
I was sleeping. Yeah.
But I think having a really good support system is part of it, because beforehand I didn't have any type of support system except for my dad, and
Otherwise, you're don't take this wrong. You're very much a loner.
yeah,
Yeah, you're a lone wolf kind
it
of
was never
person.
a party for me.
Never a party.
No, and for most people, I feel like it's a social thing to begin with,
Yeah.
and I was just like filling a void.
You were like a hermit addict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at no point I was like, oh, this is kind of weird. I'm sitting in my room, you know, never.
Yeah. No one there to judge you.
No, it was just me.
Yeah.
And I'd always known I was a fuck up, so I'm like, this is normal, you know?
Yeah, this is fine.
It's good.
We're just fixing things.
I'm just doctor for today.
Self-medicating.
Yeah.
So having a good support system, yeah, I agree with that. That is very crucial.
When you're used to making phone calls regularly, because I used to hate phone calls as like a millennial-ish. Like, you're used to texting.
You're not a millennial, are you?
I'm on the cusp.
Okay.
On the cusp.
I guess we'll accept you for today.
You know, fuck off. Anyway. I mean, I'm so sorry that you disagree with my opinion, and that's okay.
Well, I don't know the age range off the top of my head. Yeah, you're on the
99.
Oh, you barely catch it.
Yeah. So, like, my experience...
You're a young millennial. I'm an elder millennial.
Yeah.
Kind of, almost.
Because my experience is similar to Gen Z, but not close enough where I can relate to Gen Z in a majority of ways, whereas I would still confuse a millennial when you're talking about a LAN party, and I'm like, what is that? And that upsets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good old LAN party, yeah.
I'm like, what is that? I really upset a dude once when they were talking about hanging out with their friends, and I'm like, you guys brought your computers into one home?
Oh, you didn't know what it was?
No.
Oh. For those listening, a LAN party is when you would bring all of your devices or computers. I did more Xbox, like we bring our Xboxes and we connect them with an Ethernet cable because you couldn't connect to the internet, or this was before online gaming existed. So you would have a LAN party, and you could do it with computers, and Xboxes did it too. And then you would all just game and have a bunch of different screens, and yeah, it's a whole thing. It was a whole thing. Some people still do it.
Well, like, I remember when Destiny came out on Xbox, and we all, like, piled up over, and this is, like, high school for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gone over to my friend's house, and we were all there, and I was like, this is not for me, but I'm here for the ride.
Yeah,
Good for you. Yeah.
You don't play any video games? I thought you had a Switch.
I do have a Switch. I just got it back.
Yeah, after a divorce. Yeah.
I feel like every relationship for me is like a divorce, because I'm kind of a U-hauler where I'm like,
start bringing everything over.
Yeah, I'm like, this. If you're in, you're in. If you're not, you're not. Please give me my stuff back, though. I'd really. And they're like, no, it's mine now.
So what is your type of game? And is it
cozy games?
Cozy games. What? Describe a cozy.
Cozy game is like mindless, like Animal Crossing, where you can just like sit on your couch, and it's not like you have to use your brain too much.
Yeah, you just gotta. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it.
No, cozy games is like mindless games.
Okay.
Like Tetris. Tetris would be the original cozy game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like Tetris. I'm never good at it. Never been good at it.
I'm okay at it.
Awful. Actually.
Well, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, that's true.
Get into it.
I don't want to. My thing is, like, I respect video games. I love video games, but the problem is I do a lot of stuff, as you know, and I don't need another distraction. I kind of want to get one just to be like, maybe like I saw it wasn't a Switch, but it was like the same. It was
I know what you're talking about. It's like,
it's got a bigger screen.
Isn't it?
It looked like it had a bigger screen.
I can't think of the name of it,
And I
but
think
it's
you
like
can
a
put a bunch of
PC
games on it.
handheld thing.
Yeah, it looks
Uh,
sick.
oh, Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that looked cool. I was like, ooh, that's tempting. But I don't know, maybe.
they're pricier though.
Are they?
Yeah,
Like 500?
they're above that price range.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know that.
I feel like it's not a responsible financial purchase, but like maybe
I mean,
if
unless you
you
can really
save up
afford
over
it.
time. Yeah, unless you can like really afford it.
Yeah.
But like in this economy,
In this economy. Obama, I swear. uh, I love saying that just because it makes absolutely no sense now.
I feel like in this economy, if it's
In this economy, it
any,
does, but like blaming Obama when he was president
you
three
can't.
terms ago,
It's
it's just funny to me. I don't know,
yeah,
stupid,
it's not even applicable anymore.
not applicable at all.
Uh,
Um, so you mentioned before we started talking that you have severe depression. When did that start? When did you notice that, or when did
I
you
was
get diagnosed? I
diagnosed
guess there's probably two
like
different stories here.
maybe not that specific diagnosis,
Okay.
but like when you're a minor, they use like different terms for
Yeah.
different things.
I got major depressive disorder. That's what they labeled me as.
Yeah. Um like severe clinical depression.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Very professional.
yeah. And I don't remember what they said it was when I was 5, but I was diagnosed when I was 5.
Mm.
So it's been a thing. It's a 20-year long thing.
You've just been
Yeah.
a goth girl your whole life.
No, literally, I made it. I met this girl in 2nd grade, and all of her stuff was like hot pink with skulls on it. And I'm like, this is it. And I went over to her house, and both of her parents were goth, and I'm like, I think I've found my calling. This is it for me.
Mhm.
And her dad raised snakes for the zoo. I was like,
That's pretty
this
cool.
is everything to me. It was groundbreaking, life-changing moment. But no, I was diagnosed with depression when I was 5. I don't know what they called it, but
Yeah, that is young.
and like around the same time they diagnosed me with ADHD. And
Mm.
so the super fun thing around that time was to diagnose you as young as possible with attention deficit disorder and like give you whatever medication.
Ritalin or whatever.
At least. Well, they gave me Adderall
Mm-hmm.
because that was the new the new
That was the new
fad,
one.
yeah. Because obviously they realized that Ritalin was fucking people up. Well, messing people up. Ritalin
It's
was
okay. You can still
messing.
swear. I don't care.
Yeah.
They still give people Ritalin though. Ritalin's still a
Oh,
thing.
well, I know, but like they try not to pass it around as
No,
much.
no, they push Adderall way more in Vyvanse. But yeah.
Well, I think
What do you remember what dosage they put you on at that age? And obviously it's
not
so long ago, but
not at 5, but they had me like on some pretty high doses by the time I was 10. Like I think it was 50 milligrams twice a day, which is insane.
yeah.
I really don't think that should have been legal, but
That's for an adult, that's a lot.
yeah. Uh, my psychiatrist, I've had the same one just about my entire life, except for when I lived in a different state. And he'll do whatever. He'll just do whatever because he's old. I didn't.
Ah.
I'm in the process of finding a new
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
I think that's what would be healthy.
The thing is with psychiatrists, and I think I've said this before on the podcast, is you want to find one that that's not gonna push your boundaries, and one that will listen to you and be like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that, and they're like, okay, and then they move on.
Mine listens to me, but the issue is that he treated my mom from the time she was 12 until she was 29.
So a
So
lot of comparisons.
yeah, a lot of comparisons. He'll even say, which is I don't think it's professional at all, which is another reason I'm looking for another
Yeah.
psychiatrist. But he'll say,
You
"Oh,
can't
it's
be
my
bringing. You can't be bringing up
no." Also HIPAA, but
huge HIPAA violation. I just had to do some HIPAA stuff. Yeah, for my job.
but he'll say, "Oh, it's my favorite patient's daughter." And I'm like, "Oh, my science project." I love that for me.
Yeah.
What a vibe.
Ah. And your relationship with your mom is not
We don't talk.
ideal.
No.
Yeah, we don't. You don't talk. And you say you're more like your dad, though.
Yeah.
So where is it where you and your mom butt heads? And you said, because when we talked earlier, when we talked about the depression, we talked about PTSD. You said it's kind of correlated with the family dynamic.
Yeah, they kind of go hand in hand. Um, I have complex PTSD. So
Okay.
the difference is PTSD is typically one event, but complex PTSD is fragments.
Mm-hmm.
And because from the beginning, like from birth, it was an issue. I don't know why my mom wasn't interested in me. Like she just like did not like me. But she had me when she was 21 or 22.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I know plenty of like younger people who are parents that aren't like that, so I can't really justify it,
Yeah.
but maybe it's a unique factor for her.
Was this like, were you a whoopsie daisy kind of kid?
If you're an old timer in any of the programs, I would be called the product of a 13th step.
Ooh. Okay. Not planned. All right.
No.
Yeah, yeah. Gotcha. Okay. That that makes sense.
Yeah.
So maybe she had a little bit of resentment right away because of that.
She actually stalked my dad for a long time. Like, I think it was probably more of your dad doesn't want me, so I don't want you. But I want to keep you to cause problems for your dad because he doesn't want me. Does that
Mm.
make sense?
Yeah. It doesn't, but it does.
Well, like her
Yeah.
action doesn't make sense, but like the way I'm explaining it,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, her actions don't make sense, but yeah.
Oh no, she's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get her on the pod.
Hell
We
no.
could, we
I
could,
would pass.
if we could find her. Not while you're here.
I don't think you want her knowing your address. Like
Uh, yeah.
bless her heart. I hope
Yeah.
she's doing
Yeah. Yeah. So, what was like, what made you realize that you just can't have a relationship with her? Like, because most people want, have a relationship with their mom or their parents. Like, there had to be, like, you just had to, it just caused you too much pain.
my depression was like at its peak. I don't really remember what all was going on, but I think my addiction was pretty bad at the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to end it, and she calls me and she brings me down, which is really cool, you know?
When you say
But
end it, you mean end it with her? End it.
end it,
Okay, gotcha.
like, period on my life.
Yeah,
And,
I never heard it put that way, but yeah, I got what you're saying. Okay.
and, so my mom calls me, she had a gut feeling, and this is before I changed my phone number, so she couldn't contact me. And I was
Gut
like,
feeling.
okay,
Wow.
cool. Yeah, gut feeling. She's very intuitive, is what she says. And she's an empath.
Ah.
And and so she talks me down, that's cool, and then I find like I don't really mess with the local mental health places
Mm-hmm.
just from personal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found somewhere um, pretty far away for like to get some help, like for a month or whatever. And she knows that this is a plan. And she calls me and I told her, like, hey, for my mental health, like, this is a pretty toxic relationship. because it had been pretty rocky for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And by a long time, I mean like
Most of your life.
most of my life. Yeah. And she got pretty mad, like really mad at me for saying I didn't want to talk to her while I was in treatment and getting some help for my PTSD and depression because I was in denial that I was even an addict at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, because we live on the border of Illinois and Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
And so she told me, well, if you're still feeling that way, the bridge is right there. Let that sink in. My own mom.
Not like to go get weed.
No.
Yeah.
Not for a little swim. Not taking a little dip.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so just super
That's a
toxic.
dagger.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty solid reason to
Yeah.
stop talking to my mom. It's like, okay, if you still feel that way, I don't feel any type of way about you. I just want to be done. You can't really come back from saying that to your kid, I don't think.
Be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got some work to do. To even be allowed a conversation with you after saying something like that. Oh, let alone all the other stuff that she's.
No, she's an interesting little guy. Like
A little guy. Yeah.
What a fella doing life.
Yeah.
Questionably, but like she's doing it.
Yeah. Would you consider her to be like pretty intelligent, or no? Or do you think she's just confident?
I think there's like a lot of mental health issues going on
Yeah,
there.
untreated.
Well, when you have problems but you don't want to admit you have problems or you're not ready to address those issues, a lot of times people will be in therapy, but they go in and lie to their therapist.
Yeah.
Which defeats the whole purpose. Like, why are you paying to look good to this person
It's
that
not cheap.
does not care?
Not cheap. It's
You
not a
know?
cheap lie.
No.
Unless you're like unmedicated, like
Unless you have really good insurance
Or
like
really good
me, but you
insurance.
know.
Yeah.
I see my therapist twice a week.
Oh man, I wish.
We're good friends.
Yeah. That's funny because you have a therapist that I had, which is hilarious to me. I didn't have it for that long, and I was still using it at the time, so it was a different time in my life.
I love him though, because he has a really hard time. Because with most therapists, they're able to mask their reactions to what you're saying.
He can't.
He can't. His face turns red, and like I was talking about Scientology or something like that with him, and I waited specific because I'm a funny guy, you know. I'd waited for him to have his mouth full of water because he'll sit there and drink out of his Yeti cup, and he about spat it everywhere, and he got it on his shirt, and it was like successful moment for me. Proud.
He goes to my church.
Oh, I love that for you.
Yeah.
Good for Andy.
Name drop. But yeah. Oh boy. So tell me a little bit about the PTSD, because obviously PTSD is something that you have complex PTSD. So explain more for people who don't understand complex OCD.
PTSD.
PTSD. I'm talking about. Sorry.
That's good.
I'm talking about OCD a lot. Sorry. But yeah, complex PTSD. So kind of break it down a little bit more for those who don't really understand it.
So PTSD is core one event, right? Because that's what people think about when they think of PTSD. But complex PTSD is complex. There's fragments. There's different events over time that is compiled into that one diagnosis. Because it's not like, oh, we need to address this one specific traumatic event. There's long periods of time, or like issues that are related to issues. Like most of my PTSD, if not all of it, is related to events with my mom. And a lot of it, well, not a lot of it, but things over time are like still coming out for me. Like things that I've repressed will come out. Or like I'll stay over at somebody's house and they're like, "What were you talking about in your sleep?" And I'm
Mm.
like, by the way, if somebody tells you that they have PTSD, don't tell them what they're talking about in their sleep because
Huh?
they might not remember. And you're like, your brain protects you from things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if my subconscious remembers it, but I don't,
Leave it.
leave it, leave it. Because then I'm like, oh, it was duct taped to a chair. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't want to really relive
No, you don't
those
want to,
moments.
especially if you don't have to, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, multiple events in comparison to just one core event.
Hmm.
Or at least that's my understanding. I could be wrong, but like,
Yeah. Yeah, not just like, seeing someone die or,
yeah.
seeing like that could obviously traumatize somebody but yeah.
And that's not any less than,
Yeah, it's just a
but
different
it's a different
version.
experience.
Yeah.
Because it's like the DSM has changed for ADHD because it used to be either you had ADD or ADHD. Because like ADD was like just attention deficit, but ADHD was with hyperactivity. And now it's just one combined
I found
diagnosis.
that out recently because I'm more, and when you look at it old school, I guess, I'm more ADD. I don't have the hyperactivity.
That was my original diagnosis, and now I'm like unmedicated for it. It's real bad.
Yeah.
But I, for me personally, I think it's better that way because they don't know. I've just never had a doctor be able to find the right dosage for me where I'm not either like too hyper or like just an absolute zombie. So I think it's
Yeah, mine
just,
was like it gave me more anxiety when they put me on
mm-hmm.
that stuff. So,
Yeah.
and it's like I can't. I'd rather just deal with being ADD and
I'd rather like have things written all over my arms so I don't forget,
yeah.
or like 1,000 reminders on my phone for the same thing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than deal with being more anxious. Ugh. Um. So would you say you have a little bit of anxiety as well, just like more?
Really severe anxiety.
Okay. What
But
is it
I've
like? Is it more like a social anxiety, or how would you describe it?
I don't like being social, but like I've gotten more used to it speaking in front of people more.
Hmm.
But I think it's more intimate situations where people want me to meet people. I'm like, okay, I have to put on like leave a good impression, whatever. And I don't really know what a good impression is because I'm pretty no filter. I'm like, this is who I am. If you don't like it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's on you. And I'm a firm believer in that. Like I just put everything on the table in case someone wants to run. Like, here is your reason. You have like a whole buffet of
Hmm.
reasons. You can
Yeah,
just pick one
yeah,
and go. Um, my therapist says that's not good.
yeah,
But I'm a firm believer in it. I really don't care what he has to say on that
yeah,
topic.
yeah,
Maybe I'll grow into it.
yeah, or maybe like share a little bit and so you're not good at small talk, is what you're saying.
No, I hate small talk.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I met this girl and I was talking to her about like spiders and scorpions and I could have just been like, "Oh, I really like your coat." But instead I'm like, "Have you ever held a tarantula?"
yeah. And did she give any indication she would enjoy this type of conversation?
Not at first, no. But thank goodness she was. Um, but things like that happen a
Yeah.
lot for me. Because I'll be like, have you ever seen that episode of SpongeBob?
Yeah, he's a funny dude.
I don't think you guys would have like had me hang out with you guys at the
A Scar Lounge, yeah.
cigar lounge for that long.
If you wouldn't have roasted Tommy,
Yeah,
yeah.
And then we made up like an entire hypothetical life for our other friend and Tommy
Yeah.
about like if they
Yeah.
were married.
Yeah. That was like a side conversation between me and
But they
yeah.
were so into each other. I
Yeah.
think that's something that makes me anxious is like I'm in a group of people, but I don't feel included. And that was kind of a really rare opportunity ever to like meet somebody that was also feeling like not included and then I
Yeah,
could
because
like
they were kind of having their
create,
own conversation. Yeah.
yeah, because I hate that when I'm like invited to go somewhere and it's a new experience for me. I'm like,
Yeah, just like third wheeling, fifth wheeling. Yeah.
just sitting there and just looking at them, like waiting for my turn.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always awkward.
um, but anxiety for like going to do things,
Mm.
or I have a plan that of how something's supposed to go and then something changes and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I It's not how I wanted it, it's not how I planned it. No longer down.
Expectations.
No interest. Yeah. And then I feel anxious because now I've flaked on somebody or like flaked on a plan, whatever. Um, I'll admit I'm pretty flaky and I feel really bad about it.
Yeah.
Like I'm smiling, but I do feel,
Yeah.
yeah, um,
I feel like you deflect with humor a lot, though.
just
I do it myself.
it's what's worked.
Yeah, it's what's worked.
Listen,
It's kept me alive.
if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
But I'm improving.
Yeah. You're improving. So, how long did it take for you to get a sponsor?
I got one pretty soon after I started in the program, but it didn't work out for me because I picked somebody that I had known or like known of because I had grown up going to meetings and I thought they would just be a good fit or I would feel comfortable around them. And it was, they wanted to redo their steps. And so I was going at their speed and I was already like pretty far ahead, like way farther than I should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Because looking back on that work, I'm like, none of this makes sense. None of this is written for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what did I do? What's my part in the situation? So there's no self work in what I was doing.
Got it.
And I appreciate that for a sponsorship because it was a perspective of what it would be like for my mom if she was making an effort, like a genuine effort, was capable of creating a relationship with me again.
Mm-hmm.
But further on, I was getting jealous almost of this guy I've never met before because his mom is like trying and my mom is incapable of trying.
Yeah.
Which is unhealthy, but like I couldn't come out of a meeting with my sponsor feeling like I've gotten something out of it.
Yeah.
I walk out of it feeling like screw that guy, you know?
Yeah.
Which is really selfish, but that's just how I felt.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, if you're not making any progress, that's kind of what work with the sponsor is for, to
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
work in your recovery. And I wasn't really getting anywhere, honestly. So, my dad kind of taught me like quitting a sponsor is like quitting a job. You can't just quit your sponsor without another sponsor lined up.
Yeah.
And so there was already a friend of mine, like, she had been wanting to sponsor me, but she wasn't gonna like step in
Yeah.
and just like sweep me out from under somebody.
Yeah. You don't really do
And
that. Yeah.
no. And I had asked her first, actually, and she didn't know me that well, but I'd heard her speak, and I was like, okay, this is somebody that I relate to. And it was kind of cool that that ended up working out. And I feel like it's better for me. And she really wants me to take my time to actually
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd rather have that than like rushing through something And I think it's because that person had already done it,
Mm.
probably more than once,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that's kind of a thing. And well, I can't say it, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just a thing.
It's just a thing.
Yeah. Oh, I wish we could talk about certain stuff, but yeah, we get in trouble. From old people.
The good old boot.
Yeah, don't like kick us out, but
Dirty looks.
yeah, a lot of dirty looks. But yeah. What else? So, what would you say is something that has changed, even if it's not like drastically, since you've decided to live this new lifestyle?
I feel like I have a lot better interpersonal relationships. Like, before, it was just like spurts of I'm friends with this person for a week, or like even jobs. Like, I'm really bored of this job. And like, my taxes this year were insane. I
You should
had,
have a ton of jobs.
I think I had 7 W-2s.
I've been there.
I'm like, I don't even remember working here. When did I work at a doggy daycare? Like, and so now I have like job stability and I have like a stable group of friends, and I feel like I can have a positive relationship, like a positive partnership romantically with another person. Because I've had long-term relationships before, but I was crazy. Like genuinely, I I wouldn't have dated me. I would have like changed my address, changed my phone number, like
What would
can't
you
find
what
me,
would you
change
do?
states.
What would you do that was so scary?
Oh, I would like blow up dude's phone and
Track
like
them.
no. No, not track him because I didn't know how to do that yet.
Yeah, but if you
Um
could,
if I could have, probably.
yeah.
Yeah. Um Never showed up at anybody's house, but like just I would say horrible things, and then I I'm like come out of it, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's terrible." And I'd be like, "I'm so sorry." And then they would either not respond or say something not nice back. I'm like, "Actually, I'm not sorry." And like,
Yeah.
send like worse things than I'd
Because you'd
already
have
said.
blackouts.
Yeah, I would have blackouts. And then I'm like,
And you'd have to do damage control.
yeah, I'm like, what is that? Or maybe not blackouts, but just like I don't remember doing this, which I suppose is like a blackout,
Brownout.
but I don't think that's what it's called, brother. I
Well,
don't think.
brownout's like where you're
I
like,
feel like that's like when you shit your pants, is it not?
one might think that, but I've talked about browning out with people before, and it's mainly like you remember some stuff, but you don't remember other stuff.
Okay, yeah, maybe. Uh,
Not involving poop.
why not?
Why not? I remember the first time like I was like, "Hey, I needed some help cleaning my house." It's like, "Is there, as long as there's no poop smeared on the walls?" I was like, "We're good. No poop
Well,
smeared."
I don't know
Because
what
you've
your
worked,
mental health. Yeah,
because
I've
you've worked in elder care and
yeah
nursing
with
homes where you've
I've experienced some things there, and then like disabled like type
oh yeah
situations, or individuals with disabilities, and I've seen some things like
yeah
all wonderful people. It's just like
yeah
I've I don't know where somebody's at, like mentally, what's going on.
mm-hmm.
Um, you would think that poop smearing is not that common, but it's actually really common, and I hate that. But everybody's got their thing.
Just got it. Yeah, I don't fit in that category.
Happy for you. Taking
Yeah,
strides.
yeah, making strides like I used to be. I'm a recovering poop smear. Um, but
I'd pray for you.
yeah. Speaking of prayer, you said you liked to keep your faith, and your faith's important to you. At least it has been in the past. I don't know where you're at now with that, but
I think organized religion is not for me, you
mm,
know. Um, I believe there's got to be something out there because if there weren't, I wouldn't have gotten better. And I think in pretty like gnarly life situations, because we all have like that bad point in your life where you're like, is there anyone watching? Like, are the lights on? Or like, um, and it makes everything a lot more questionable. But I think had I not gone through the things that I went through, I would have no message to deliver. There's not a single unique experience on this earth. Like, we might have a little bit of like tiny differences,
mm,
but being able to relate to other people is like humanity,
mm,
you know? And if nothing happened, what would we have to talk about? Like, seen this really cool speck on a wall today. Yeah.
mm.
I don't think that would be much of a life for anybody.
Yeah.
But no, there's got to be somebody out there. I just believe that organized religion just isn't for me. And it makes other people happy, and that's great. It's just, I haven't had that real positive experience
Mm,
where I'm like, this is it. I want to go every Sunday. Like that's, you know, um I was like that for a long time, but I think being around people sharing real experiences and being honest, because you can go to church and be like, I'm this great person for going to church. I know not everybody's
yeah, yeah.
like that,
I know what you're saying.
but I've seen that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But faith is important to me. I think it's just not in the way that it had been for me originally.
It shifted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me, I went so far away, and then like I didn't really have faith in anything. And now I'm kind of, yeah. Organized religion is a part of my life now, after it not being for a long time, because I just get something out of going to church, and I can't explain it, but
Maybe I'll come back into it someday, but like for
yeah,
now, I just don't think it's for me. Um, I think the therapy is doing me good. I think the program is doing me good. And like,
yeah.
just, I can build on to my schedule. Like, maybe I'll have a different experience now, but like
Mm-hmm.
before, I just wasn't getting much from it. Maybe a different church, maybe like, I don't know, there's different
Sometimes the
stuff.
priests, like some people don't like, some Catholics might not like this statement if they're Catholic, but like sometimes it's the priest.
It's true.
Like there's a priest that I'm trying to have on this podcast. His schedule is insane, but he's leaving our church soon, and I'm not happy about it. I mean, it is what it is. He's a newer priest. They move more than the older guys. It's kind of like a 10-year thing, as you know. And the way he has impacted our church, just because he's younger, he's got good energy, and like he's still newer. It's like, so his homilies just kept getting like better and better and better, and and him breaking things down the way he did, and it was just like everybody wanted to go to the mass he was doing, and I don't know what's gonna happen.
Delivery of the message was really
Oh my
important.
god, yeah, he was so good at it, and he's just I've watched him like evolve because he's so new, and I became friends with him because he's just a good dude. He's a bro, like, and when I growing up, as you probably know, like you thought every well, we were younger, but every priest was like 100 years old, you know.
Yeah, and I was like, what happened to Father Jack? Like, where did he go? And my nana's like, he's dead. And I'm
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
no one told me. And they're like, you were too young. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
They brought in
There's this
another,
one
like,
priest I know
old
that
man.
I think he married my parents. And he would always talk about how he was retiring and going to the Holy Land. And that was Florida, so he could golf.
Good for him.
I was like, that's funny. It's like, yeah,
um,
it's good. It's a good play on words.
uh, my priest, even though I don't go to that church unless like
You'll still
I'm
like talk to him
invited.
every once in a while.
Yeah. My priest is pretty cool. He hangs out on Xbox a lot. Anytime somebody
Sick.
does like adult catechism, because like I don't know, I don't meet a lot of people that like grow up in the church and like stay in the church.
Yeah, I left.
Um,
And then I came back.
so I went to a mental health event thing,
Mm.
trivia, and a few of my like religious friends from middle school were there, and this girl comes up to me, she's like, I haven't seen you in years. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen you in forever. How are you? Are you married? You have kids? How's it going?
What's your social?
Give me your ads. Um,
Yeah.
and she was telling me that she was taking the like adult catechism. I can't even think of what it's called right now. But she's like, yeah, I'm doing this. And I'm like, oh, ask Father Peter for his Xbox tag. Like, and she looks at me, she's like, no way. Like, he's actually pretty cool. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
he's pretty chill. Catch him at the bar after.
Yeah, yeah. There's priests. I mean, yeah, there's just dudes too. I mean, um, yeah, and there was such a smear on the Catholic Church I mean, I get it.
Good reason, but
Yeah, but
it's not everyone's experience. It doesn't.
yeah, that's the thing, and that's the first thing you hear when you say
But
like Catholic,
it
like
shouldn't even be just the Catholic Church though, because I think it's like that anywhere. It's like schools or at jobs or like it's everywhere. And it's not just the Catholic Church if you're thinking about like in churches. It happens
no, it's because
any type of
they're so
religion.
big and um yeah, they have so much. I don't want to say power, but they're just like so like such a big institution, and everybody's like, what?
Well, that is like the first thought when you think of like church, like imagery wise. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't know anything about Christianity, you just like envision this big chapel, stained glass windows, and
Yeah,
like that's what you imagine. And so when you think Catholic, that is like,
yeah.
yeah,
I would just like to say I was an altar server. Nothing happened to me. Nothing happened to anyone at my church and
it's a good church.
good church. And but it
The
was
bar
just
is like in the dirt.
yeah, but it's just like they're yeah, like if you compare it to like any place that where people are like around children, um, and like yeah, schools for example. Like
I think it's
how like it's like once a week.
I think it's not much different from like schools. I think children are just at risk for that to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah,
And
and there's just
it's
weirdos out there ever. They're everywhere.
everywhere, everywhere. And like I think it's good that people are like starting to cover their kids' faces in pictures because you really don't know who's looking at your Facebook, who's looking at your social media in
Hmm.
general. Like it's cool that your family knows, but
Yeah, or there's
really
like
do
that
you
feature on like my sister-in-law uses like the feature where it's like close friends only on
yeah.
Instagram.
But like, do you know every friend that you have on Facebook? Like
No,
every single
personally,
person. Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So like,
I have like 2,500 friends or some crazy shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So just I don't know. Like, children, unfortunately, are just more at risk for bad things to happen. And it's really unfortunate that it happens so frequently. It
Mm.
just really doesn't matter where you are
The story.
at.
Have you noticed that in recovery, like the number of people that had something happen
Yeah,
as a kid? It's
it's
like it's such a high percentage. I feel like I am in the category like what do you I can't use words. I'm an anomaly for not having that happen to me.
no. I because I've talked about it I'm like I'll say the majority of us have had familial issues because baseline, there's probably nobody just wakes up one day and they're like, I'm gonna be the best alcoholic I possibly can.
Hmm.
Or like, I'm going to use the most drugs anyone
Yeah.
has ever used. Uh, People don't do that. There's a reason why you
Yeah.
get to that point. So
Yeah, most like
typically,
it's either like trauma or mental health, and which I
there's
kind of put
more,
in the same category, but or there's just yeah like me, mine was mental health, playing doctor and trying to fix
yeah,
myself. Yeah,
mine too. Uh, Well, playing doctor to fix the
yeah,
trauma and the depression,
yeah,
and it doesn't work that way as much as I really thought I was doing a good job.
yeah. You really at first you might have been well something worked because you kept doing it, and
you
then it didn't.
when you can't feel, you crash more cars. I've learned that.
How many cars you crash? You think?
I have totaled 2 cars within the last 7 years. My car insurance is more than my car payment.
I appreciate you being on here today and sharing your story and being vulnerable. People really appreciate that on this podcast, and I am glad we have been able to develop a friendship, and I got to know you a little bit better today. That's also the coolest thing about this podcast. I get to know people on a deeper level, and yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the episode, and thank you for tuning in to Modern Day Overthinker. And keep up with us on social media, Modern Day Overthinker. It's at MD Overthinker everywhere you can think of. So thank you, and until next time, this has been Collin from the Modern Day Overthinker podcast, signing off.